Hello everyone, and it's that time of year again for the annual Bean Day with the Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association, their annual meeting coming up in Gering. And I have Dan Hinman, the president of the association, with me today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Annual event that takes place that seems to gather a lot of interest throughout the area.
Yeah, all the dry bean growers, processors, interested business people. So anyone that wants to know about dry beans is invited to come out.
And this year it's going to be on the 11th of February.
Correct, yes.
Starting up at about 12:30 and going until about 6 o'clock, as I understand it.
That's the plan.
We do have a number of dignitaries, in addition to the agriculture side of getting some details on some of the latest in bean production and harvesting. We do have some dignitaries, I understand, that are on the agenda for that day.
Yes, Nebraska,
Secretary of
State, Bob Evnen has agreed to come and speak with us. So.
Okay. And is the Director of Agriculture also slated right now?
Director of Ag is slated as well. Steve Wellman. Steve's been to visit us a couple times and has taken a pretty good interest in Nebraska, western Nebraska ag production. So we like to have him come out and see what's going on this end of the state.
And of course, talking with a couple of the researchers as well on some of the latest in dry bean production. And what kind of changes have been taking place here relatively recently?
Recently, been some new weed issues that have come up, looking at some irrigation management issues, always looking for new varieties that are going to fit our climate, our area better. So anything business-wise for the university works with to help out dry bean producers, and this is their chance to get in front of the growers and talk about what they've been doing, what they've been learning. And
of course, dry bean production in the panhandle of Nebraska, really significant actually.
Yes. About 155,000 acres of dry beans grown in Nebraska. Nebraska's #1 producer of Great Northern beans, #2 of pinto beans.
And so obviously when it comes to food production that's tied to beans, Nebraska, one of the obviously the biggest in the country. What is it specifically that makes Nebraska such a large producer in that realm?
Well, a lot of it's probably our climate. Dry beans like a semi-arid dry climate, like sandy soils, so it's well fitted to the western end of the state. They are grown in areas throughout the state, but the panhandle and southwest Nebraska, just ideal growing areas for dry beans.
And of course, there's going to be more than just that at the Dry Bean Growers Association Annual Bean Day coming up on February 11th, and we'll be back in just a moment with some more details. And we're back talking with Dan Hinman, the president of the Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association, specifically on the 2020 annual meeting, also known as Bean Day, coming up in Gering, February 11th, starting at 12:30 in the afternoon, running until 6 o'clock in the evening. Again, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I know in some past events with Dry Bean Day, there have been opportunities to sample, bean-related, products that are out there, maybe foods made with beans. Also, usually a few vendors that are outside showing some of the latest wares in what's happening in production.
Yes, going to have some vendors available that are local bean processors. I think a few chemical companies. Going to have the University of Nebraska Medical Center, College of Nursing is going to be there to visit with us. So they'll be available during vendor breaks and during our social hour to visit, and we appreciate their sponsorship.
And I understand you have at least one new thing that's going to take place during the course of the meeting.
This year we're going to give a scholarship presentation. We did it in the past, a scholarship. We'll be doing the presentation at So we do a scholarship for any individual or child of an individual of Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association membership. Give a scholarship, we think, to invest in our future and someone that's ag-oriented to get out and further their education and get something back to the community.
And how much is that scholarship?
We're giving a $500 scholarship one this year.
Okay. And obviously, if somebody is interested in applying for that scholarship in the future, how do they do so?
The plan is to continue this program and application will run in next fall
Okay.
of 2020 for the 21 year. We'll have an application published in the Bean Bag, which is our publication we send out to all bean growers and members. Would be that one. They could also contact the Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association office and get a copy of an application there. But
I know that one of the things in the past that had always been, kind of a big deal was the bean cookbook. If somebody doesn't realize it, beans can be used in multiple numbers of
Yes,
ways
yes.
when it comes to food production, not just as soups and salads, things such as this. I remember beans that were used in brownies.
Yep, beans can be used desserts, brownies. They can be ground into flour, used in baking. Lots of uses out there. So.
And of course, you still do have a cookbook, some copies available.
We do have copies available of our last publication. Yep.
And if somebody is interested in getting one of those, how do they do so?
Also contact our office. They're available through the Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association. We'll have copies on hand at the Bean Day.
Sure.
If you're not available and want to stop in at our office at the Panhandle Research Center, they're there.
Okay. And of course, a lot of activity throughout the course of the day. Give us just a little bit of a rundown of what we can
Right.
expect.
So after registration, we'll do our scholarship presentation, recognition, some welcomes by Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association, Nebraska Bean Commission, and the director of the Panhandle Research and Extension Center. Following that, we'll hold our annual business meeting, election of officers, and go over the financials for the year for the members. Then we're going to feature a keynote speaker. Bob Evnen has agreed to come and visit with us, Secretary of State for the state of Nebraska. Does a lot for trade, and he goes on a lot of visits to foreign countries, and he's a great voice for us, and great to keep him on the loop of what's going on with us out here. The Nebraska Director of Ag, Steve Wellman, has also agreed to come and speak with us. So we're interested in hearing from him and what's going on in the state legislature for agriculture that affects us. After that, we're going to have the university researchers give their presentations.
Some of the latest information that's out there right now.
We do have some comment from Carlos on dry bean breeding, the varieties he's coming up with, how they're progressing, some water management. I think a new internet platform Shin has got going on. We're going to hear some weed management, new weeds coming up that's difficult to control.
Yep.
Nevin Lawrence going to speak with us there. John Thomas, local yield and production trials, so that's always interesting. Jessica Groskopf's going to talk with us about the new Farm Bill, what it means for us, what we need to know, and for the dry bean growers. Soil nutrient management, I think we've got a speaker on that. And of course, Jack Whittier, the director, will give us an overview of what's going on out at the Research Center for the dry bean growers.
Yeah. And of course, everything wrapping up at 6 o'clock here on the 11th of February, starting at 12:30 for the 2020 Nebraska Dry Bean Growers Association annual meeting and Bean Day at the Gehring Civic Center. Dan, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.